It, I don't even know.
And a long downfield road jump ball, catch made, touchdown! To the air. And picked off.
Clifford had it picked off! Snagged on the run and rumbling ahead. Davey on...
It's the first time the Nittany Lions have been 0-5. It's the worst start in program history, yada, yada, yada. You've probably heard it. If you haven't, then now you know. It's safe to say that this year has not been good for Penn State football. Actually, very bad. One of the worst. In the preseason, there was so much hype surrounding this Penn State football team. They were in the top 10. This was supposed to be the year. Lofty expectations, to say the least, but not unrealistic. James Franklin has had this program in the right direction, and this year, it just took a complete nosedive. Between the Eagles and Penn State football, I don't really know which team is worse. And that's saying something because the Eagles actually have won football games. Yeah, they're both terrible. They're both bad. And that's just not fun. Okay. So how did things spiral out of control for this Penn State football team? That's kind of what I want to get into and my thoughts of why they've struggled and made history, but for all the wrong reasons. So the first thing is slow starts. And if you've watched Penn State this year and even in years past, the team has never been able to start fast in the first half. They've consistently been inconsistent in those halves, and this year in particular have fallen down to deficits of 10, 15, 21, 21, and 17. When you're in that position going into the second half, already down 2 or 3 scores, it's so hard from a mindset standpoint to get back in the game. And even when Penn State has made attempts to come back and made it a 1 or 2 score game, it's just not enough because they get there maybe at the end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter, but at that point it's really too late because the other team gets the ball back when they're already up a score and they basically seal the deal. This year, it's just a totally different mindset and a totally different team. And I guess, in my opinion, a solution to that maybe would be to take more deep shots early in the game. At this point, when you're 0-5, you have nothing to lose. I get it. I understand. You want to establish the ground game, but throwing it deep, maybe taking a couple shots to get a big play early on to get some momentum, that could prove to be maybe successful. I don't know. I'm not the coach, but I'm just trying for any solutions here for this offense because it's been stale. It's been lackluster. There's no juice on either side of the ball. There's no energy. Speaking of energy, you want to talk about energy? Well, let's talk about the quarterbacks. Sean Clifford and Will Levis have not been good. Neither have played well, but Clifford in particular, I want to focus on him because he was the starting quarterback last year, has played the majority of games in the past 2 seasons. He's not in the right headspace. You look at his numbers compared to last year to this year, and it's night and day. And now some people will say, oh, well, he had KJ Hamler, he had a better team last year, but he has Jahan Dotson, he had Pat Freiermuth, now Freiermuth's out for the season, but it's not to say that he doesn't have weapons. And then when you talk about the weapons, you can also focus on the injury bug, which has hit Penn State pretty hard this year, and just to focus on that for a second, they've lost Noah Cain, Journey Brown, Pat Freiermuth, Micah Parsons opted out. Those are really the main core of players that Penn State's missed. It definitely shows. And I'm not saying that Penn State would be a winning football team with all these guys back and healthy, but it does help the mindset of the team in critical moments. And another issue for them has been getting pressure up front on the defensive line and tackling. Matt Millen was on the broadcast for Big Ten Network. He was a letterman, an all-around really good player. So he knows Penn State, and he's been watching Penn State for a long time, since the 60s, I think he said. When describing this defense, he said, this is the worst tackling by Penn State that he thinks he's ever seen. I look to the defensive line. You lose a coach like Sean Spencer to the NFL. The Wild Dogs are now not the Wild Dogs, I'll tell you that much. Not getting pressure, not creating enough push on the line, especially run defense, has been particularly scarce. I know it's only 5 games, but comparing it to the numbers in years past, I think is pretty critical, and it's something that you have to account for and look at. So let's look at this 2020 Penn State football team and their numbers. So the 2020 team has given up 36 points a game against opponents so far in 5 games this season. That's what they've averaged. That is 101st out of 127 teams in college football. On offense, they've averaged 24.6 points per game, which is 90th. Taking a look at that team versus Penn State football teams in years past, going to just go quickly. In 2014, the offense averaged 20.6 points per game, which was 113th. That offense was pretty bad. Their defense, however, allowed 18.6 points per game, which was 7th. That defense under Bob Shoop was pretty good. Then 2015, only averaging 23.2 points per game, and then their defense allowed 21.8, which ranked them 26th. And the numbers, while offensively are worse, defensively is really what I'm focusing on. The absolute contrast in 2014 and 2015 to 2020. And then, of course, I think it's important to talk about the turnover battle. Penn State has lost it in every game so far this season, just like it's fallen behind in every game so far this season. The defense has been only able to create 4 turnovers so far this season, while the offense is turning it over like it's a hot potato. Like, here, have the ball, defense. There you go. James Franklin has said it's the story of the season, and he's right. Each week in his press conferences, he talks about the importance to win the turnover battle, and that's an area of focus for the offense and for the defense in takeaways. But each week, it continues to be a problem. So my question is, why and how? So this is one thing that Penn State fans have been talking about for a while and will continue to talk about under James Franklin's tenure, and it's lining up under center. Funny enough, there was a point in the game where Jahan Dotson had a catch, and he got 14.5 yards, and they needed 15. Initially, the refs spotted the ball for a first down, but then they reviewed it, and I thought to myself, oh no, he's going to be short. And you think to yourself, wait, what? He's a half yard short. It's 3rd and inches. They can get this, right? No, they cannot. That happened twice. They got stuffed twice on 4th and short. Whereas on the opposite side of the ball, Iowa lines up under center for a 3rd and inches and for short yardage down, and they push the pile and get 2-3 yards. And then there was another instance where they did it, and they scored a touchdown. It was like a 3-yard push, and their quarterback got in the end zone easily. It was pretty fitting to see. Listen, I'm not saying that Penn State has to line up under center every play, but I don't understand why you can't at least put that little wrinkle, if you want to call it, into the playbook. If you can't get a yard in your offense when you need it, and everyone knows what play you're running, because let's face it, everyone knew that Penn State was running the ball. So Iowa keys in, brings the whole defense, and then stuffs Will Levis. I mean, at this point, with things not working, why not change it up? Why not add something? There's been a lot of conversation about James Franklin as a head coach, and if it's his time to go, if he should be fired, what the deal is there. Who is there to replace James Franklin? Is there a better coach out there in college football that's available to replace James Franklin? To be honest with you, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can think of maybe 2 guys. There's Chris Peterson and there's Urban Meyer, but there's no way that Urban Meyer is going to come to Penn State. So I'm really curious. Let me know down below in the comments if you're a Penn State fan or if you're a college football fan in general. Let me know who you think is a better replacement for James Franklin, because I don't think that there is. Or let me rephrase that. I don't think that there will be a guy that will be available. And then also you look at the impact recruiting-wise. Penn State recruiting class, especially in 2021, has not been as good ranking-wise than in years past. And how do recruits really view this program? Franklin will probably get another full year at Penn State. That's really going to make or break the program that Franklin has been able to build at Penn State and his coaching career in general. I know you're thinking, well, Andrew, Penn State could really go 0-8. They are potentially set up to go 0-8. And yeah, that's very possible. And then you're thinking, how can you hold on to a coach that goes 0-8 with a program like Penn State? Overall, I just think that this team had a lot of potential, but it just went by the wayside. There was a lot of injuries, the opt-out of Micah Parsons, and then just a lot of uncharacteristic things about Penn State that I've been able to see over my 4 years as a student, but this year has been particularly different. So those are my thoughts of the 2020 Penn State football team making history, all for the wrong reasons. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're new and you enjoy the content. And that'll be all for me, guys. Catch you on the next video. I appreciate the support, as always. And I'm out. Peace.